Thanks, you too.
Thousands of men and women serving the military away from home this holiday weekend, and while they have left the comforts of civilian life behind, NBC's Atiya Bawi tells us how the New York Jets brought an American tradition to the battlefield in Afghanistan.
Each jersey has a number 12 on it, signifying the 12th man, letting these service members know that their sacrifices have not been forgotten.
Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Out here in the Army, coming and doing a event like this here in Afghanistan, you're around really your military family.
Thanksgiving Day, you know, for years I've been playing football in the morning and then watching football in the afternoon, and that's what this is all about today, here in Afghanistan with all the U.S. service members being here.
From Kabul, Afghanistan! Happy Thanksgiving!
Football aside, this is where the real Thanksgiving takes place, the part with the food. At this dining facility, 98 men have been working really hard to bring all the trimmings to more than 2,000 coalition members, including turkeys, hams, even pumpkin pie.
I think it's awesome. It kind of blew me away to come in here and see everything like this. I mean, they like to go big for the holidays, but seeing the carving beef station and the sliced turkey, that was cool.
And joining me now, a veteran himself, Ramsey Suleiman of the organization Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. And thank you for joining us, Ramsey. Happy day after Thanksgiving to you.
Alex, happy Black Friday to you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I know that you served in both Iraq and in the Marine Corps. So what is the hardest part about serving far from home during the holidays?
Well, I think that clearly it's being away from family. I was deployed in Iraq during the Christmas season, missed Thanksgiving, missed Christmas, New Year's, the birth of my son, and being away from family and having life go on without you back home is really often pretty difficult, and especially if you're in the austere Spartan conditions that we were in and that a lot of the troops are in Afghanistan right now, it makes it all that much more difficult. You
know, and Ramsey, it's not just you when you're out there, but it's your at home who see that empty place at the table, and they're thinking of you in those Spartan conditions. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, for all the events, you know, there's always an empty place at the table, and for a lot of Americans, that place will always be empty because their loved one has given the ultimate sacrifice in the conflict. So it's really something that strikes a chord at home too, but it's striking an increasingly smaller and smaller percentage of the population. So it's something that not a lot of people can relate to.
But you know what we all can relate to is that we ought to be grateful for the service of those who serve in the military for the safety and security of our country. So when you guys come home, what is it that you need most from citizens here in the U.S. to help ease that transition?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the American public has been incredibly supportive. Even if they have not been supportive of the conflicts, they've been incredibly supportive of the men and women who are overseas and serving in the military. And one of the things that is really important is when service members come home and they reintegrate, whether they stay on active duty or whether they particularly get out and try and go back to civilian life, is that the people understand that there is a transition there. And so, especially as we talk about increasingly austere budgets for the federal government and cutting veterans affairs and programs that benefit veterans, that people understand that really makes a huge impact on a very, very difficult time when you're really trying to reestablish an entirely different life.
And a sense of normalcy. And a lot of it is about getting to routine. We know that's such a big part of the military, which means jobs. Do you think that, is it training for new jobs, or is it also finding creative ways to take that which people have learned while serving overseas and focus on that and let that and run with it back stateside?
Sure, I think it's a little bit of both. You know, one of the big differences is that, say, after World War II, all my great-uncles and my grandfather, they all served in the military. There was 16% of the population. Everybody knew somebody who served or had served themselves. So that reintegration was easy because everybody had a first-hand experience in some manner. Whereas now, there's less than 1% of the population that's serving. Some of the skills maybe aren't necessarily understood. The MOSs the military occupational specialties, the military jobs, don't necessarily make sense to hiring managers or people in the business community. And that's something that we've been working to address with some of our corporate partners and with legislation and trying to bridge that gap, because people in the military are really well trained, really well experienced, and do a lot of the same jobs in the military, you know, mechanics, medics, network systems engineers, as are out there in the civilian world, and just making that understood.
Well,
and they've been trained at taxpayer expense and have a ton of experience.
And they're able to give back to their communities. And Ramsey Suleiman, thank you for your time with us here, not only serving, but here on MSNBC. Have a good one.
Alex, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Next up, the Obama presidency. Past, present, and